The silence of deep space shattered as 12 massive shapes tore through the fabric of reality itself. Golden light blazed across the void as humanity's first interstellar fleet emerged from hyperspace, their hulls catching and reflecting every photon of nearby starlight. The ships moved with purpose toward Proxima Station, where representatives from 47 alien species waited to judge whether Earth deserved a place among the stars. Admiral Thompson felt the familiar weight of command settle on his shoulders as the Aurelia glided through space. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency, their faces betraying nothing of the historic moment unfolding. They had trained for this day for 15 years, ever since Earth scientists had cracked the secrets of faster-than-light travel. Now they faced the ultimate test of human engineering and diplomacy. The alien response came faster than expected. Communication channels erupted with a cacophony of sounds that the universal translators struggled to process. Clicking, buzzing, harmonics that sounded like breaking glass, and deep rumbling that seemed to shake the very atoms of space. When the translations finally stabilized, the meaning became crystal clear. The aliens were laughing. High Commander Vorth of the Krell Supremacy led the chorus of mockery. His insectoid features twisted in what passed for amusement among his species as he broadcast to the entire gathered fleet. The humans had arrived in ships covered with what appeared to be nothing more than decorative gold plating. To the assembled alien minds, this represented the height of primitive thinking. They had expected weapons, shields, armor plating designed for war. Instead, they saw what looked like luxury yachts painted to impress rather than survive. The crystalline beings known as the Veltar added their voices to the ridicule. Their ship forms rang like bells in the vacuum, creating harmonics that translated as barely contained laughter. They had witnessed the rise and fall of 1,000 species, and never had they seen such obvious inexperience. The humans had spent precious resources making their ships beautiful rather than functional. It spoke to a species that fundamentally misunderstood the nature of galactic politics. Even the normally stoic Drakmori showed signs of amusement. Their massive war forms, each one a kilometer of hardened battle steel and plasma conduits, seemed to vibrate with what their ancient culture considered the closest thing to laughter they possessed. The Drakmori had conquered 17 star systems. Through pure military might, they understood war in ways these golden ship humans clearly did not. Captain Rivers maintained her position aboard the Golden Dawn, one of the smaller vessels in the human formation. Her tactical displays showed the alien fleet positions with crystalline clarity. Over 300 warships surrounded Proxima Station, each one bristling with enough firepower to reduce a small moon to cosmic dust. The humans had brought 12 ships that looked like they belonged in a museum rather than a battlefield. The formal inspection began as alien sensor arrays focused on the human fleet. The results only confirmed their initial assessment. The golden coating showed no signs of defensive capability. Beneath it lay standard hull materials, adequate life support systems, and propulsion that seemed barely sufficient for interstellar travel. The humans possessed no visible weapons arrays, no shield generators, no obvious military technology of any kind. Ambassador Collins received the first official communication from the Galactic Council within hours of their arrival. The message was polite but condescending. Earth would be granted provisional membership status, a classification reserved for species deemed technologically insufficient for full participation in galactic affairs. They would be allowed to observe council proceedings but not vote on matters of importance. Their trade rights would be limited, their territorial claims subject to review by more advanced species. The humans accepted these terms without protest, which only reinforced the aliens' assessment of their weakness. A truly advanced species would have demanded better treatment, would have demonstrated their power through displays of military might or technological superiority. Instead, the humans seemed grateful for whatever scraps the Council chose to offer. High Commander Vorth shared his assessment with the other military leaders during a private communication session. The humans possessed faster-than-light travel and basic life support technology, but nothing that posed any threat to established galactic powers. Their ships were curiosities, examples of a species more concerned with appearance than substance. They would make useful trading partners once properly educated about their place in the galactic hierarchy, the Veltar agreed, their crystalline forms resonating with harmonics that indicated satisfaction. They had feared the humans might possess some unknown technology that could disrupt the careful balance of power they had spent millennia establishing. Instead, they found a species that seemed almost eager to accept a subordinate position. The golden ships were proof of human vanity rather than human capability. Over the following days, alien technical teams conducted detailed scans of the human vessels. The results were shared freely among the council members, as was traditional when evaluating new species. The humans offered no resistance to these examinations, another sign of their peaceful but naive nature. Every scan confirmed the initial assessment. The ships were structurally sound but militarily insignificant. The gold plating itself became a source of particular amusement among the alien commanders. Spectrographic analysis revealed it to be genuine gold, a precious metal with some interesting conductive properties but no apparent defensive value. The humans had literally covered their ships in treasure while leaving them defenseless. It suggested a species that valued appearance over survival, beauty over brutal necessity. Admiral Thompson observed these examinations with apparent calm, occasionally answering technical questions from alien inspectors with polite cooperation. His responses only reinforced their image of human innocence. When asked about defensive systems, he spoke of redundant life support and emergency protocols. When questioned about weapons, he mentioned point defense systems designed to clear debris from their path. Nothing in his manner suggested deception or hidden capabilities. The verdict among the alien species was unanimous. Humanity represented no threat to galactic stability. Their golden ships were impressive to look at but utterly impractical for real warfare. They would serve as a useful reminder to other species about the importance of substance over style. The humans had earned their place as junior members of galactic civilization. Nothing more and nothing less. As the first week of negotiations concluded, the alien fleets began to relax their defensive postures. The human ships posed no credible threat, and their crews seemed genuinely interested in peaceful cooperation. It appeared that Earth's integration into galactic society would proceed smoothly, with the humans accepting their assigned role as technological inferiors guided by their more advanced neighbors. None of the alien observers noticed the faint energy readings emanating from the golden hulls, readings so subtle they registered as background radiation. None questioned why ships covered in decorative plating would need such sophisticated sensor arrays. And none wondered why a species primitive enough to waste resources on cosmetic gold would simultaneously possess the most advanced hyperspace drives anyone had seen in living memory. 3 weeks had passed since the Golden Fleet's arrival, and the mood around Proxima Station had shifted from amusement to irritation. What began as gentle mockery of human naivety had evolved into something far more dangerous. The Hegemony Coalition, a loose alliance of the galaxy's most aggressive species, had grown tired of diplomatic niceties and begun pushing for more direct action against Earth's interests. General Krex paced the command deck of his flagship like a caged predator. The reptilian Saxith leader had built his reputation on swift, decisive military action, not endless negotiations with primitives who didn't understand their place in the galactic order. His scales rippled with barely contained aggression as he watched the human ships maintain their peaceful formation, seemingly oblivious to the growing hostility around them. Ambassador Collins worked 18-hour days in the diplomatic chambers, trying to navigate an increasingly hostile political landscape. Each session brought new demands from the coalition species, requirements that grew more unreasonable with every passing day. They wanted exclusive mining rights to Earth's asteroid belt, permanent military bases on human colonies, and trade. Agreements that amounted to little more than organized theft. The coalition justified their demands through a simple philosophy: might makes right. They had the ships, the weapons, and the experience to enforce their will. The humans possessed nothing but pretty golden vessels and admirable stubbornness. In the brutal mathematics of galactic politics, the outcome seemed inevitable, Captain. Rivers monitored coalition fleet movements from her position aboard the Golden Dawn. Her tactical displays showed a gradual but unmistakable pattern of encirclement. What had begun as loose formations around Proxima Station had tightened into something resembling a siege formation. The aliens weren't just posturing anymore. They were positioning themselves for potential military action. The Krell supremacy had moved their battle swarms into optimal attack positions, their organic ships pulsing with barely contained aggression. High Commander Vorth made no attempt to hide his fleet's intentions. During one particularly heated diplomatic session, he had openly stated that diplomacy was a luxury the Krell afforded only to species capable of defending themselves, the Veltar. Crystalline Collective had shifted from their usual neutral stance to active support of coalition demands. Their ships formed geometric patterns that maximized their offensive capabilities while maintaining perfect defensive coordination. They communicated through harmonic frequencies that conveyed cold calculation rather than their earlier amusement. The humans had become a problem requiring solution rather than entertainment. Dr. Martinez transmitted regular intelligence reports back to Earth Command from his position aboard the Aurelia. His analysis painted a grim picture of coalition intentions. They had conducted detailed scans of every human vessel, mapped their defensive capabilities, and concluded that 12 ships posed no meaningful resistance to their combined forces. The coalition possessed over 300 warships, mounting weapon systems that could sterilize entire continents. The breaking point came during a council session focused on territorial rights. General Krex demanded that Earth cede control of its outer colonies to coalition oversight, claiming that human expansion posed a potential threat to galactic stability. When Ambassador Collins politely declined, the Saxith leader's response shattered any pretense of civilized negotiation. The general's voice carried the weight of absolute authority as he addressed the human delegation. The galaxy operated according to principles these newcomers clearly didn't understand. Species earned their place through demonstrated strength, not through appeals to fairness or justice. The humans could accept coalition guidance willingly, or they could learn the consequences of defying superior military power. Admiral Thompson received these threats with apparent calm, but his private communications with Earth revealed a different story. The coalition was preparing for military action, and humanity's first contact with galactic civilization threatened to become its last. The Golden Fleet faced impossible odds against an enemy that possessed overwhelming numerical and technological superiority. The coalition ultimatum arrived exactly 48 hours after General Krex's speech. The terms were non-negotiable. Earth would accept coalition oversight of its space territories, grant unlimited resource extraction rights to alien corporations, and submit to regular military inspections to ensure compliance. The alternative was the complete destruction of humanity's space-based assets and the classification of Earth as a restricted system. Captain Rivers watched her tactical displays as coalition forces began their final positioning. The alien fleet had arranged itself in a perfect envelopment formation, with overlapping fields of fire that would allow them to concentrate their full firepower on any target. Every human ship was bracketed by multiple enemy vessels, each one capable of reducing the Golden Dawn to vapor with a single full-power salvo. The Drakmori warforms had taken positions at key strategic points, their massive hulls bristling with weapons that could crack moons. Their ancient warrior culture viewed the coming confrontation as a teaching moment, an opportunity to demonstrate the consequences of challenging established galactic order. They had fought and won wars against species far more advanced than these. Golden Ship humans. High Commander Vorth coordinated the coalition fleet movements with predatory precision. His tactical plans accounted for every possible human response, from desperate flight attempts to suicidal attacks on coalition vessels. The Krell had centuries of experience in breaking stubborn species who refused to accept their assigned place in the galactic hierarchy. Ambassador Collins made one final attempt at negotiation, proposing a compromise that would allow Earth to maintain sovereignty over its core systems while accepting limited coalition oversight of expansion efforts. The response came in the form of weapons powering up across the alien fleet. Energy readings spiked as particle beam arrays, quantum torpedo launchers, and plasma cannons came online. The Coalition's message was clear: the time for talking had ended. The humans could surrender immediately and accept vassalage, or they could watch their precious golden ships become monuments to the folly of challenging superior military force. General Krex personally transmitted the final warning, giving Admiral Thompson exactly 1 hour to respond. Dr. Martinez completed his final intelligence assessment as the deadline approached. The Coalition forces possessed approximately 50 times the firepower of the human fleet, with weapon systems that operated on principles Earth scientists barely understood. Their shields could deflect the combined output of entire planetary defense grids. Their armor had been tested against the most advanced weapons in known space. Admiral Thompson gathered his senior officers for what appeared to be humanity's final strategy session. The bridge of the Aurelia hummed with quiet tension as the countdown timer approached 0. Outside the viewports, the Golden Fleet maintained its formation with mechanical precision. 12 ships facing an armada that could reduce Earth's space presence to cosmic debris within minutes. The Coalition ultimatum reached its conclusion with mathematical precision. Admiral Thompson's response would determine whether humanity's first contact with galactic civilization ended in submission or annihilation. The aliens waited with weapons charged and targeting systems locked, confident that their overwhelming superiority would force the humans to see reason. As the final seconds ticked away, the golden ships showed no signs of movement or surrender. The humans seemed determined to face destruction rather than accept the Coalition's generous offer of survival through servitude. General Krex shook his head in disgust at such pointless stubbornness, then gave the order his fleet had been waiting. FOR. The final countdown began with the mechanical precision that only comes from overwhelming confidence. 6 separate alien fleets had arranged themselves in perfect formation around the 12 golden human ships, their weapon systems humming with barely contained energy. Over 300 warships now surrounded Proxima Station, each one representing technological advancement that Earth could barely comprehend. The Coalition commanders had spent decades perfecting their instruments of war, and today they would demonstrate why their species ruled the galaxy. General Krex stood before the main tactical display aboard his flagship, watching as targeting systems locked onto each human vessel with surgical precision. The Saxith Empire had perfected the art of military intimidation through generations of conquest. Their quantum disruptors could punch holes through any known armor, while their plasma cascade weapons could melt entire sections of enemy hulls in seconds. The reptilian general felt the familiar satisfaction that came with absolute military superiority. Commander Sax of the Drakmori battle cruiser Void Ripper reviewed his weapon specifications one final time. His people had been warriors since before most galactic species had achieved spaceflight. Their particle beam arrays operated on principles of controlled stellar fusion, creating energy beams that could slice through moon-sized asteroids like cutting through paper. The human ships with their decorative golden hulls would provide no challenge whatsoever to such overwhelming firepower. High Commander Vorth coordinated the Krell battle swarms with predatory efficiency. His organic vessels pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that indicated peak combat readiness. The Krell had evolved their living ships over millions of years, creating weapon systems that merged seamlessly with biological processes. Their acid plasma projectors could dissolve any known material within seconds, while their regenerative hulls could repair battle damage faster than most enemies could inflict it. The Veltar Crystalline Collective had arranged their ships in geometric formations that maximized their offensive potential. Their harmonic weapons could shatter molecular bonds through precisely tuned frequencies, reducing enemy vessels to their component atoms. The mathematical precision of their attack patterns left no room for error or escape. They had calculated the exact energy requirements needed to completely vaporize the human fleet down to the last rivet. Admiral Thompson received the Coalition's final ultimatum with the same calm demeanor he had maintained throughout the negotiations. The terms were exactly what everyone expected: complete surrender of Earth's sovereignty, acceptance of permanent alien oversight, and acknowledgement of humanity's inferior status within galactic civilization. The alternative was the immediate destruction of every human ship and the classification of Earth as a restricted system unsuitable for space travel. Captain Rivers monitored the tactical situation from her position aboard the Golden Dawn. Her displays showed energy readings that should have terrified any reasonable military commander. The alien weapons now targeting her ship could each deliver more destructive force than Earth's entire nuclear arsenal. The Coalition had positioned their fleet to ensure that every human vessel would face concentrated fire from multiple directions simultaneously. The human response came exactly on schedule. Admiral Thompson's transmission reached every Coalition ship at precisely the moment their ultimatum expired. His words carried the weight of speaking for an entire species facing extinction, yet his tone remained steady and professional. Humanity respectfully declined the Coalition's offer of survival through submission. They would face whatever consequences the aliens chose to impose. General Krex couldn't believe what he was hearing. The humans had just signed their own death warrant with 12 outdated ships against an armada that could glass entire continents. He had seen this kind of stubborn pride before in species that refused to accept the reality of their situation. It always ended the same way, with debris fields where ships used to be and silence where defiant voices once spoke. The alien commanders shared a moment of genuine puzzlement at human stupidity. They had offered these primitives a chance to survive as vassals, which was more generosity than most conquered species received. Instead, the humans seemed determined to go out in a blaze of glory that would accomplish nothing except making their extinction. Slightly more dramatic. Commander Sachs targeted the Aurelia with his ship's primary weapons array. The human flagship would be the first to die, a symbolic demonstration of what happened to species that defied the established galactic order. His targeting computer calculated the exact energy requirements needed to penetrate the golden hull and destroy the vessels. Command structure. The numbers were almost insultingly small. High Commander Vorth prepared his battle swarms for coordinated strikes against the human escorts. The Krell approach to warfare emphasized overwhelming biological superiority rather than technological complexity. Their living weapons would consume the golden ships like predators devouring prey, leaving nothing but organic residue floating in space. The Veltar completed their harmonic calculations with crystalline precision. Their frequency weapons would target the molecular structure of the human hulls, causing catastrophic resonance failures that would tear the ships apart from within. The mathematical elegance of their approach satisfied their crystalline consciousness in ways that simple explosive destruction could not. Dr. Martinez transmitted his final analysis to Earth Command as the alien weapons reached full charge. The Coalition possessed enough firepower to sterilize Earth's entire surface multiple times over. Their defensive systems could deflect any retaliation the human fleet might attempt. The technological gap between the species was so vast that resistance appeared not just futile but actively suicidal. The Coalition fleet commanders gave their final warnings with the patience of adults, explaining simple concepts to stubborn children. The humans still had time to reconsider their position, to accept the generous terms offered by their technological superiors. All they needed to do was power down their systems and submit to Coalition authority. Their pride wasn't worth the extinction of their entire species. Admiral Thompson's response came through clearly on all communication channels. The humans appreciated the Coalition's concern for their welfare, but they had made their decision. Earth would not accept vassalage regardless of the consequences. If the aliens chose to proceed with military action, they would face whatever resistance 12 golden ships could provide. The alien commanders exchanged final tactical updates as their weapons reached peak efficiency. Energy readings across the Coalition fleet spiked to levels that registered on sensors throughout the system. The combined firepower now aimed at the human ships could have cracked the crust of a small planet. Surely even these stubborn primitives would recognize the futility of their position and surrender before the shooting started. Captain Rivers watched her tactical displays as targeting locks solidified on her ship's hull. Every major system aboard. The Golden Dawn was now bracketed by alien weapons designed to ensure complete destruction. The Coalition had planned their attack with mathematical precision, accounting for every possible variable except one. They had fundamentally misunderstood what they were actually facing. The moment of truth arrived with the inexorable precision of a countdown timer reaching 0. General Krex gave the order that would demonstrate the consequences of defying superior military force. Energy discharges across the Coalition fleet created a light show visible from multiple star systems as hundreds of weapons fired simultaneously. The aliens expected to see 12 golden ships disappear in brilliant explosions of vaporized metal and organic matter. Instead, they witnessed something that challenged their understanding of physics itself. The weapons struck their targets with devastating force, creating energy releases that should have reduced the human vessels to their component atoms, but when the light faded and the energy dissipated, 12 golden ships still hung in space, exactly where they had been before. Their hulls showed no signs of damage, no scoring from energy weapons, no indication that they had just absorbed enough destructive force to level mountains. The Coalition fleet found itself facing an impossible reality. Their most powerful weapons had accomplished absolutely nothing against ships they had dismissed as primitive decorations. Chaos erupted across the Coalition fleet as commanders stared at their tactical displays in disbelief. The impossible had just occurred before their eyes, witnessed by sensors that couldn't lie and recorded by systems that had never malfunctioned. 300 of the galaxy's most advanced warships had fired simultaneously at 12 primitive human vessels, and the result was absolutely nothing. The golden ships hung in space exactly as they had before, their hulls gleaming without so much as a scorch mark to show for the devastating barrage they had just absorbed. General Krex felt his world shift beneath his feet as he processed what his instruments were telling him. The Saxith Empire's quantum disruptors had fired at full power, weapons that could punch holes through the shields of Drecamori battle cruisers. The energy discharge alone should have vaporized any normal vessel within seconds. Instead, the Aurelia floated serenely in space, its golden hull reflecting starlight as if nothing had happened. Commander Sax roared orders across his bridge as his crew struggled to understand their readings. The Void Ripper had unleashed its full arsenal of particle beams, weapons that channeled the destructive power of dying stars. The targeting computer confirmed direct hits on the human flagship. The energy readings showed successful weapon discharge. Yet somehow, impossibly, the target remained completely intact. High Commander Vorth watched his organic weapons fire again and again at the human escorts. Acid plasma bolts that could dissolve moon-sized asteroids struck the golden hulls and simply vanished, their destructive energy disappearing without trace. The Krell battle swarms pulsed with confused bioluminescence as their living weapons encountered something beyond their evolutionary experience. The Veltar crystalline collective rang with harmonic frequencies that indicated system-wide confusion. Their mathematical models had predicted complete molecular dissolution of the human ships within nanoseconds of weapon impact. Instead, their harmonic weapons seemed to be absorbed by the golden hulls without creating any resonance effects whatsoever. The equations that governed their understanding of physics were proving inadequate to explain what they were witnessing. Captain Rivers monitored her ship's status from the bridge of the Golden Dawn. Her displays showed multiple weapon impacts, registering as nothing more than minor energy fluctuations. The alien bombardment that should have reduced her vessel to cosmic dust was being handled by systems the Coalition couldn't even detect, much less understand. The golden coating that covered her ship was far more than decorative plating. Admiral Thompson opened a communication channel to the Coalition fleet as their weapons fell silent from sheer exhaustion. His voice carried the same calm professionalism that had marked all his previous transmissions, but now there was an undercurrent of something else. The aliens were beginning to understand that they had made a fundamental error in their assessment of human capabilities. The admiral's words cut through the confused chatter filling the communication networks. The coalition had conducted extensive scans of the human vessels, analyzed their construction, and concluded that they posed no military threat. Those conclusions were based on the assumption that they understood what they were looking at. That assumption was about to prove catastrophically incorrect. Dr. Martinez transmitted updated analysis to Earth Command as the alien fleet struggled to comprehend their situation. The golden hulls weren't just armor or decorative plating. They were metamaterial constructs operating on principles that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Every energy weapon fired at the human ships had been absorbed, analyzed, and converted into harmless photons that dissipated harmlessly into space. General Krex ordered his fleet to fire again, pouring every remaining charge in their weapon capacitors into a concentrated barrage aimed at a single human vessel. The Golden Dawn disappeared behind a wall of destructive energy that would have cracked the surface of a planet. When the energy cleared, the ship emerged without so much as a paint scratch on its golden surface. The coalition commanders found themselves facing a reality that challenged everything they thought they knew about warfare. Weapons that had conquered star systems were proving completely ineffective against ships they had dismissed as curiosities. The technological superiority they had taken for granted was revealed as nothing more than primitive brutality compared to what the humans possessed. Commander Sachs attempted to ram his battle cruiser directly into the nearest human ship, reasoning that kinetic impact might succeed where energy weapons had failed. The Void Ripper accelerated to attack speed and struck the Aurora with enough force to shatter asteroids. The collision produced a spectacular light show as the Drakmori vessel's shields collapsed and its hull crumpled against the human ship's apparently indestructible surface. High Commander Vorth tried biological weapons next, launching swarms of living organisms designed to consume enemy hulls from the outside in. The Krell bioweapons struck the golden surfaces and simply ceased to exist, their organic structures broken down at the molecular level by defensive systems the aliens couldn't even detect. The human ships seemed immune to every form of attack in the coalition arsenal. The Veltar attempted their most exotic weapons, devices that manipulated spacetime itself to create localized gravitational anomalies. The weapons fired successfully, creating distortions that should have crushed the human vessels like insects. Instead, the golden ships moved through the gravitational fields as if they didn't exist, their hulls somehow immune to forces that warped reality itself. Captain Rivers watched her tactical displays as the alien fleet exhausted every weapon system at their disposal in increasingly desperate attacks. Plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, particle beams, exotic matter projectors, dimensional rifters, and biological weapons all proved equally useless against the human ships. The golden coating absorbed everything the coalition could throw at it and converted the energy into harmless light. Admiral Thompson opened another channel to the coalition fleet as their attacks finally ceased from sheer exhaustion. His message was brief but loaded with implications that sent chills through every alien commander. The humans had allowed the coalition to test their defenses thoroughly, gathering complete data on every weapon system in their arsenal. Now it was time for the aliens to see what human technology could actually accomplish. The golden ships began to move with a grace that defied their apparent mass. What the coalition had assumed were slow, cumbersome vessels suddenly demonstrated maneuverability that made their own craft seem primitive by comparison. The Aurelia performed evasive patterns that should have turned its crew into paste, yet the humans aboard remained perfectly stable thanks to inertial dampening systems that operated beyond alien comprehension. General Krex watched in growing horror as the human ships revealed capabilities that had been completely hidden during their arrival. The golden vessels moved through space like living things, responding to threats with reflexes that suggested artificial intelligence beyond anything the coalition possessed. They had underestimated these newcomers so badly that their mistake might prove fatal. The moment of revelation came when the human ships powered up their own weapon systems. Energy readings spiked across the electromagnetic spectrum as the golden vessels revealed armaments that operated on principles the Coalition had never encountered. The humans hadn't come to the galaxy seeking acceptance. They had arrived as apex predators conducting a careful evaluation of potential threats. Commander, Sax realized too late that the humans had been testing them all along. Every scan, every inspection, every moment of apparent cooperation had been gathering intelligence on alien capabilities. The Coalition had revealed their complete military potential while learning nothing about their opponents. The golden ships weren't prizes to be taken. They were traps that had just been sprung, the communication channels filled with panicked reports as Coalition commanders began to understand the true scope of their miscalculation. They had provoked a species that possessed technology decades or centuries beyond their own understanding. The golden hulls that had seemed like decorative folly were actually defensive systems that made their enemies effectively invulnerable to conventional attack. The universe held its breath as 12 golden ships transformed from apparent victims into something far more terrifying. What had seemed like desperate defensive maneuvers suddenly revealed themselves as precise tactical positioning. The human vessels moved through space with a fluidity that spoke of technology so advanced it appeared almost magical to the alien observers. Every graceful turn and acceleration was calculated to demonstrate capabilities that the Coalition had never imagined possible. Admiral Thompson's voice carried across all communication frequencies with the authority of someone who had just revealed the true balance of power. The golden plating the aliens had found so amusing served multiple purposes beyond simple protection. It functioned as a sophisticated sensor array, analyzing every weapon signature and tactical movement the Coalition had demonstrated. More importantly, it served as a delivery system for defensive technologies that operated on principles the aliens couldn't begin to comprehend. Captain Rivers felt the familiar surge of acceleration as the Golden Dawn executed maneuvers that would have been impossible for any conventional spacecraft. The human vessels didn't just move through space. They seemed to bend the laws of physics around them. Gravitational fields that should have torn the ships apart were channeled and redirected. Energy that should have vaporized their hulls was absorbed and converted into propulsion. The aliens were witnessing technology that made their own achievements seem primitive by comparison. The counterattack began with weapons that defied every principle of galactic warfare. Instead of crude energy beams or kinetic projectiles, the human ships deployed technologies that manipulated the fundamental forces of reality itself. Gravitational wave generators created crushing forces that could compress enemy vessels into dense spheres of metal and organic matter. Quantum disintegration arrays simply erased targeted sections of hostile ships at the subatomic level, leaving perfectly spherical holes where armor plating and weapon systems used to exist. General Krex found himself facing a reality that challenged everything he thought he knew about military power. His flagship was being repaired by the same species he had tried to destroy, using technology that made Saxith engineering look like primitive craftsmanship. The humans weren't just demonstrating their superiority. They were showing mercy to enemies who had shown them none. The broader implications of humanity's technological capabilities began to sink in across the Coalition fleet. These golden ships represented a level of advancement that could reshape galactic civilization overnight. The humans possessed the power to disable entire fleets without casualties, to repair impossible damage, and to defend themselves against any conceivable attack. They had arrived not as supplicants but as the new apex species in the galaxy. Commander Sax received a personal communication from Admiral Thompson as his ship's systems came back online. The human admiral's message was simple but profound. Earth had no interest in conquest or domination. They sought only peaceful coexistence with their galactic neighbors. However, any future aggression against human interests would be met with responses that made today's demonstration seem gentle by comparison. The Veltar Crystalline Collective found their mathematical models completely rewritten by exposure to human technology. Their perfect understanding of physics had been revealed as incomplete, their weapons obsolete, their defenses irrelevant. Yet the humans offered to share knowledge rather than impose servitude. It was a generosity that their crystalline consciousness struggled to comprehend. High Commander Vorth felt his organic vessels returning to normal biological function as the nanite intervention ceased. The Krell had evolved to be perfect predators, but they had encountered something beyond their understanding of the natural order. The humans had demonstrated the ability to rewrite evolution itself, yet they chose to restore rather than destroy. It spoke to a species that had transcended the brutal necessities that drove most galactic civilizations. Dr. Martinez completed his analysis of the engagement as the last coalition vessel signaled surrender. The human fleet had neutralized over 300 enemy ships without firing a single conventional weapon. Their technology operated on principles that made traditional concepts of warfare obsolete. They had achieved total victory through methods that preserved life rather than destroyed it. The golden ships began to disengage from their tactical positions, their movements suggesting preparation for departure rather than occupation. Admiral Thompson's final message to the Coalition fleet carried implications that would reshape galactic politics for generations to come. Humanity was offering the defeated aliens a choice: accept Earth as an equal partner in galactic affairs, or face the consequences of continued hostility from a species that had just proven its overwhelming technological superiority. Captain Rivers monitored the alien fleet's response as Coalition commanders struggled to process their new reality. The species that had arrived in decorative golden ships were actually the most advanced civilization the galaxy had ever encountered. Their apparent weakness had been a carefully constructed test to evaluate alien intentions and capabilities. The Coalition had failed that test spectacularly. The political ramifications spread throughout the galaxy as news of the engagement reached other species. The established power structure that had dominated galactic civilization for millennia was crumbling in the face of human technological supremacy. Earth wasn't asking for membership in galactic society. They were announcing their arrival as its new leaders. Admiral Thompson's final words to the defeated Coalition carried the authority of absolute power tempered by unexpected mercy. The humans could have destroyed every hostile ship with ease, could have reduced entire alien civilizations to ash and memory. Instead, they chose to demonstrate their capabilities through restraint and precision. It was a lesson in power that the galaxy would not soon forget. As the Golden Fleet prepared to depart Proxima Station, the alien species faced a fundamental choice. They could accept humanity as the dominant force in galactic affairs and benefit from access to technologies beyond their imagination. Or they could continue their hostility and face the full might of a species that had just proven it could disable entire armadas without breaking stride. The 12 golden ships that had arrived as objects of ridicule now hung in space like 12 suns, their hulls gleaming with the promise of technologies that made the rest of the galaxy's achievements seem primitive by comparison. The aliens had laughed at Earth's golden ships until their weapons failed completely. Now they understood that the real joke had been on them all along. Krex watched in horror as his flagship systems began failing in ways that made no sense. The decimators. Quantum shields flickered and died, not from energy overload but from what appeared to be systematic reprogramming. His weapons turned inward, targeting his own ship's critical systems. His propulsion cut out entirely, leaving the massive Saxith vessel dead in space. Somehow, impossibly, the humans were taking control of his technology without even touching it. The most terrifying weapon in the human arsenal proved to be one the Coalition couldn't see or understand. Nanite swarms, released from the golden hulls during the initial bombardment, had infiltrated every alien ship that fired upon them. These microscopic machines moved through enemy vessels like ghosts, analyzing systems and rewriting code with surgical precision. Within minutes, the entire Coalition fleet found their own technology turned against them. Commander Sachs experienced the nightmare of watching his crew become prisoners aboard their own ship. The Void Ripper's environmental systems shifted to human specifications. His weapons powered down and refused to respond to commands. Most disturbing of all, his tactical displays began showing human technical specifications that his species had never seen before. The nanites weren't just disabling his ship, they were educating him about the true scope of human technological superiority. High Commander Vorth felt his organic vessels writhing in confusion as alien programming invaded their biological systems. The Krell battle swarms evolved over millions of years to be perfect killing machines, found their natural instincts overridden by microscopic invaders that rewrote their genetic code in real time. His living ships began broadcasting surrender signals in languages they had never learned, their bioluminescent patterns spelling out messages of submission in perfect coalition standard. The Veltar crystalline collective discovered that their mathematical understanding of the universe was woefully incomplete. Their harmonic communication networks had been infiltrated by signals that shouldn't have been possible to generate. The nanites were using their own crystalline structures as transmission media, forcing them to broadcast human technical data to every ship in their formation. Their perfect geometric formations dissolved into chaos as individual vessels lost the ability to coordinate with their collective consciousness. Dr. Martinez recorded every moment of the engagement for analysis by Earth Command. The alien fleet that had threatened humanity's existence was being systematically disabled without a single casualty. The humans weren't destroying their enemies. They were demonstrating complete technological dominance through methods that left the coalition alive but utterly helpless. It was a display of mercy that revealed confidence in their overwhelming superiority. The golden ships revealed additional capabilities as the engagement progressed. Energy shields that could deflect entire fleet bombardments materialized around human vessels like gossamer curtains. Propulsion systems that bent space-time allowed them to appear and disappear at will, making conventional targeting impossible. Most impressively, their hulls began to shift and reconfigure, revealing weapon systems that had been completely invisible during the initial scans. Captain Rivers watched her tactical displays as enemy vessels surrendered one by one. The coalition fleet that had seemed so overwhelmingly powerful now drifted helplessly in space, their crews unharmed but their ships completely under human control. Every alien weapon system had been turned offline. Every tactical computer had been reprogrammed. Every communication array now broadcast messages of surrender and requests for mercy. Admiral Thompson opened a final communication channel to address the defeated coalition fleet. His words carried the weight of complete victory achieved without unnecessary bloodshed. The humans had not come to the galaxy seeking conquest or domination. They had arrived to evaluate the existing power structure and determine whether peaceful coexistence was possible. The coalition's aggressive response had provided their answer. The technology demonstration continued as human engineers began repairing damaged alien vessels using methods that seemed to violate every known law of physics. Nanite clouds swarmed over broken hull sections, rebuilding them with materials that appeared to be constructed from pure energy. Gravitational manipulation systems restored structural integrity to ships that should have been total losses. The humans were proving they could create as easily as they could destroy.